We are live again. My goodness, how exciting it is to be back. I'm just going to bring my lovely esteemed guest in. So, hello to everybody. My special guest today was a huge hit last time she was on the show and is back today by popular demand. She's a doctor of psychology, a transformational coach, and focuses on remaining young even into your more senior years. She's such an inspiration, having surmounted many challenges in her life, and to name a few, from abuse as a child to being given only months to live with an aggressive leukemia diagnosis and a near-death experience from an accident on holiday. These days, she helps her clients to live a fuller, fitter, and more active life, even and especially into their senior years. I'm delighted to welcome back Dr. Leonie Morris, everyone. Leonie, fantastic to have you back on the show.
Good morning. It's so lovely to be back. And I really just wanted to start off by saying a huge thank you. I don't know whether people who are on the other end of these interviews realise how powerful it is to be listened to, to see people's comments and people's reactions was so heartwarming, and coaches are always putting themselves out there, and it's so infrequent that you have the chance to talk to a wonderful group who you can see are resonating with what you're saying. So it was hugely uplifting. I was floating on cloud nine after last time. So thank you all very much indeed. Really, really enjoyed it, and I'm so happy to be back.
Likewise, it was an uplifting experience for me as well. It had a big impact on me. We've got guests on already, up to now 4 and counting. We've got Charlie Wall. Hiya, Charlie. She's saying, hey. Hi to you, Charlie. It's lovely to see you on this broadcast. We've got my friend Karen Maguire who's saying hi. Hello, Karen. So glad to have you popping us to join us as well. Hey, current comment. Again, I always say this, but keep your comments coming. Your questions, observations for Leonie. The Facebook algorithm picks it up, shows us to more people. We've got Lucy Palmer in the house saying hello. Hi, Lucy. It's lovely to have you with us. Nice one.
Hello.
I'm trialing out a new colour.
Loving the comments.
Yeah, I'm trialing out a new colour for the Facebook Live. It's like a purple colour. Not sure I like it, but never mind. Right. So, Leonie, picking up from last time, you were embezzled out of your life savings, which was a tiny sum in anyone's book. And I just wondered how you kind of, I'm not expecting to go into great details in one respect, but how did you begin to bounce back from that? That must have been a massive setback. And how do you, with this understanding you now have, how was it when you did have that money behind you? Did you feel more secure, or did you worry about the stock market or whatever going broke or crashing? How did you come back from that? And how do you see things now, money?
It's a very well phrased question, because you're absolutely right. It doesn't matter how much money or how little money you have behind you. It's very, very clear to me, and going through that cycle of having plenty to suddenly it all being wiped out showed me that actually my feelings about my own safety and security weren't really dented. So I totally admit to having an ego-based response. So when it first happened and I was on the phone to the bank, who were then on the phone to the fraud squad, and I got the news in that this wonderful portfolio of savings that I've been putting into a savings branch of the Santander Bank. So a big bank, and I thought I was going through a broker from a big, portfolio-based savings and investment arm of Santander. So all looked bona fide. I had emails with the correct ending, right telephone numbers, but I didn't know it was all being redirected behind the scenes. So actually I was dealing with international fraudsters based out somewhere, we believe, in Panama. And all my money that I thought I was investing into shares or bonds was being sidelined. So when I found out, it was the whole lot had already been invested. The whole lot had already gone. So losing $500,000 in one big chunk was, that does put you into a kind of state of immediate shock. And, that the psychological and physiological response take over, and you go into fear, you feel sick, you can't eat, you think your life's over. But very quickly, within a space of 24 hours, I kind of woke up the next morning and thought, well, actually, really, what is going to change? My life doesn't need to change that much. I'm still me. I'm still safe. Nothing has really touched, the bigger part of me, the essential presence, the consciousness that's me. So whilst it might mean a slight change on how I choose to live my life, or, the choices I have in terms of what clothes I might wear or that type of thing, it hasn't really changed a huge much at all, a way of physically living my life. And someone asked me once, when you kind of regain your perspective and you kind of look back, the things that you go through feel really, really small in comparison to how enormous they felt at the time. And I always think when something hits me in the moment and I feel this big and the problem feels absolutely huge, I always think, this time next week, a year from now, 2 years from now, is this really going to have affected me? And the honest answer is no. And sometimes the thoughts I have coming into my head then, when I've given myself the space and the detachment from the, what's hitting me, hitting my ego, I just, you can laugh and you can see it in the grander scheme of things. And you get a reality check and you realize that you are blessed, totally blessed.
Yeah, good. I've got someone at the door. I'm hoping they're just going to just piss off because I'm kind of busy right now. But
do you want to go and?
No, it's all right. Right, just go to the comments. Thank you for sharing that, by the way. Charlie was saying that our favourite colour is purple.
It's a great colour, Charlie.
Yeah, it is. So was there a hidden gift in this embezzlement? I know you said you bounced back from it quite quickly, have made a few adjustments to your thinking and your lifestyle, perhaps. But what about was there a hidden gift beneath it all?
I think there are always, whenever you hit something kind of challenging in life, there is always something to learn. And I want to be really clear that when I say learn, I don't mean it's a lesson at school and you've got, a headmaster with a cane waving it over you. I just mean there's something that the universe is reminding you of and encouraging you to kind of to wake up, and snap out of the spell that you've been under. And I think when I had all that money sitting behind me, going into retirement and thinking I could do whatever I wanted and laze around, I drifted into the Leonie hedonist phase. So, I find it very easy to super relax. I love my wine. I love spending money. Who doesn't? It's a kick to kind of just go wherever you want to, buy expensive meals. But all of that was kind of, the more of those things you do, you fall into that trap of seeing the outside world as creating your happiness. And I'd fallen into super lazy, thinking I would get happier if I went to this restaurant, bought that item of clothing, this amazing perfume, or whatever it might have been. And even with all, the great learning that I've had the opportunity to be part of throughout my life, it's very easy to forget and to kind of get self-involved and to enjoy the overly hedonistic pleasures. As a biological thing, we are hot-wired into pleasure over pain. All biological organisms are kind of have this natural instinctual response to expand and flow into pleasure and to retract from pain. And I was expanding into my pleasure, but not in a way that was serving others. And I lost myself. I lost myself in, overly doing things to the extent that I was numbing and not contributing and not being true to myself. So the lesson was to know that happiness is absolutely inside absolutely an enduring part of me, coming from me and not from the things that money can buy. And I needed to hear that. I obviously needed to hear that. And it's a wonderful gift. It really is.
Yeah, that's interesting. I know you picked up on the word. Sorry, I picked up on the word used, contributing. Do you think you would have bounced back and be serving in this manner had you still had your savings behind you?
Probably not as much. I mean, I've always been fascinated in people and what motivates people and what goes on in people's heads. You know, that's why I chose to do psychology all those many years ago. You know, and I've kept that up. I've kept up my own kind of path of, you know, walking towards enlightenment. But I think I would have done it in a very much more self-interested way, you know, that the kind of navel gazing and going up your own butthole. And it's wonderful to have those experiences and to know that you really are safe, because it gives you so much more ability to inspire others to have that confidence. So when the shit hits the fan in people's lives, as it does so often, if you can say, I really do know that, you know, one day, next day, that a week later, a month later, you really will see things differently. Your thinking will have changed. You will have got back into, you know, your natural state. You'll have let all of this personal thinking settle. You really will move on and you'll be back to you in no time at all. I know that that's the truth, and it helps to, you know, have the confidence in that to share with others.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. Got to nip to the comments as we do to make this as interactive as possible. Got Angela Richardson. She's saying hi. Great to see you back. How wonderful.
Hi, Angie.
And we've got Anne L. Barry. She's saying hello from Ireland.
Hey.
Thanks for joining us from the Emerald Isle.
Beautiful place.
Yeah. So again, picking up from your interview last time, we had a question come in right before you vanished because your battery died or something. Yeah,
I plugged it in today to avoid the same happening again.
It was from Alison Duffy, I seem to recall. She was asking, she said she'd love to hear more about this near-death experience that you had whilst holidaying in some exotic location. And you set the scene for it and how it happened. And then you were talking about the near-death experience itself. And I know it's perhaps hard to talk about the formless because I've had a similar experience, not near death, but similar when you're like out of your body. So I don't know if you could expand at all on your near-death experience for us, please.
Yeah. And I'm guessing there's a few people who weren't here on the last call, so I'll just give a quick reminder of what it was that took place. So I was in Oman visiting my lovely twin, and they'd had the worst rain in 45 years when I was visiting. So it's a very dry and arid country, but they do have riverbeds called wadis. And what you normally do is you take your big Land Rover and go on a kind of an off-roading, you know, a very wild session up and down these dry riverbeds. So we'd gone out to do that, and it was very hot, but the rains had been, so as opposed to dry riverbeds, they were very wet rivers. And we thought, sunny day, we've got our lilos, let's go and do a bit of relaxing in the sunshine and go on the river on a lilo. So happily floating away, my husband and myself at the time on our individual lilos, taking on board the sun and relaxing. And it was a beautiful, wide, expansive river, very shallow, less than a foot deep, and just, you know, sparkling in the sunshine. So we're lying there relaxing, and suddenly the sound of the water gets much, much louder, as if we're going to, you know, to get some rapids. And we didn't think too much of it. We kind of looked up and saw that, yes, indeed, there were some rocks ahead, and the river was narrowing a bit, so the water force was getting stronger. So our lilos were kind of rapidly whipping towards this place. And as we approached, we realized it was not just rapids, it was a waterfall. But it didn't look too big. It was about a 10-foot waterfall, so not small. But, you know, we young, healthy, excitable, kind of, you know, wanted to go with the adventure. So we stayed on our lilos, but as we were going down the fall, holding onto our lilos, we saw that the water, instead of carrying on as a river, coursed down into 2 underground tunnels. So the river at that point went underground. Too late to get off, so we held onto our lilos and we were both sucked under. At that time, you obviously go into a bit of a, this is an understatement, mild panic. So you're underwater completely, you can't breathe. And it was all rock face, so you're being bashed and thrown against the rock. So, you know, instinct tells you to kind of hold yourself in to avoid being bashed. Actually, what you're meant to do is put your arms out so that when eventually, you know, the surface is reached, you kind of bob back up again. But we were kind of fighting for our breath at this stage. I've got no idea what happened to my husband at the same time. We were fighting for ourselves. You start trying to hold your breath. Minutes down the line, or it was probably only 60 seconds, I'm pretty sure my lung capacity is not great. The lungs started to fail and you start opening your mouth in an instinct to breathe. So the water starts rushing in and you start to lose consciousness. It's not as fast as people might think, because you do a lot of thrashing and, you know, in desperately trying to get hold of the air. The water came in, I lost consciousness, and that's the kind of the last I knew of things for a while. But as that was happening, I found out later what eventually happened is the subterranean river lasted for about 1 mile to 1.5 miles, and both of our lilos popped up first, followed by our bodies a little bit later. And we were lucky enough for it to be popped back up at a kind of a village, you know, a tribal village in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of Oman, where they did their laundry. You know, it's a very kind of third world area. And they saw our bodies. Obviously, it's happened before, and they knew what to do. They dragged us out and resuscitated us. But during that time of being, you know, unconscious, you know, life was seeping out of your body, breathing had stopped, heart stopped. I went through the kind of the classic, what most people think of in a near-death experience. I saw a wonderful bright light, but it wasn't like seeing it. It was like feeling it with all of my senses, but not just the human senses of, you know, sight, sound, touch, smell. It felt like a kind of multi-dimensional, multi-hued rainbow of light, kind of prismatic, every possible color imaginable. And I was being absorbed into that and almost part of it. And it was the most wonderful, blissful state. If you can remember back to your childhood as a toddler, before you had, you know, your own kind of ego sense, or before the fears of the world, before you were educated into worrying about every goddamn thing that was going on. And you imagine sitting there as a toddler with an ice cream, with the sun hitting your face, just in a totally relaxed state, you know, happy, you've been playing in the sand, the sunlight is warming you, and you almost can't feel the difference between where you start and stop and where the rest of the world, you know, starts and stops. There's no boundaries. It's like you've become part of, you know, the stone, the rock, the beach that you're sitting on, because you're, you know, you're so warm and in a blissful state. And it's like that, but more, you know, enhanced. There is no end to you. There is only kind of a wonderful sense of love and compassion and wisdom, and just knowing everything, and everything slotting into its place, everything being perfect and ordered and as it should be, and everything just, you know, being vibrant and beautiful at the same time as, you know, seeing everything that could possibly be bad in this world, but seeing it as that's how it should be, and understanding why the bad needs to be with the good, and just feeling at one, feeling divine, feeling the created and the creator at the same time. And during that time, I saw myself, I saw my body, I saw all the people who were, you know, pumping away, trying to save us. And I not only saw them, I was connected to their presence. So I saw every single incarnation, every life they'd lived. I saw every emotion that they were feeling. I knew instinctively, I was trying to give them messages saying, this is why you need to be thinking about, so, this is coming for you down the line. And you just wanted to communicate and to share everything that you knew to all the people around you who are helping, your physical body. And it's such a powerful feeling that once consciousness was regained, once I was back in my body, it's something that you can't ever forget. It's something that has stayed, I can't say I'm in that wonderful, blissful, all-knowing, all-seeing, all-powerful state. But remembering that's who we always are. And that's how we're meant to feel. And knowing that that's always there, my goodness, it's like the biggest kind of insurance policy. It's the most wonderful, uplifting, soul-shifting experience that can't possibly leave you. And if I can inspire anyone who's listening to know that is the truth, to know that, you are this amazing, powerful being, and that those feelings of bliss and happiness are our birthright, that we are connected. It's so powerful. I'm so blessed to have had that experience.
Thank you for explaining that. That was really powerful, beautiful, and such a calmness that I'm feeling from the words you've been sharing, from the feeling of the words you've been sharing. I had a similar experience similar in terms of the formless rather than leading up to it. It was in 2008. I was really depressed, going through a difficult time, breakup of a relationship. And there was one night I was lying on my bed, just really had enough. And so I ended up leaving my body, and I was sort of flying out. And as you say, you become a part of the stars, the moon, the river, the birds, the trees. There's no kind of boundaries between you and it. There's no separation. And I felt so free, joyous, and all the rest of it. But when it was time to come back, I was told, right, you've got to go back now. And I was like, why on earth, in God's name, would I want to go back into that small body, into that limited understanding, etc., etc.? But I did have to go back, and yeah. But it is, you can't, it's hard to put into words, although you just did in a beautiful way. So thank you for that. I want to move on now and talk about this notion of, well, it's not a notion, but this idea of being able to age not only more gracefully, but more usefully in ways that serve you, which is obviously your forte as well. I want to start off by asking you, how much do you think our thoughts, emotions, and beliefs affect the aging of our bodies, Leonie?
Bingo! That's kind of the $64 million question. And I think that's the one significant learning that I've made. So, as I went through, the various things that have happened to me in my life, it began to be clear that every time I tried to fix, in inverted commas, every time I tried to get back to a calmer place, to get over the challenges that were facing me, in the outside world, I got to that calmer place. The challenges were, suddenly something that I could handle, that I could see through, that I could be creative about and find solutions for. But when I got to that calm place, when I connected with wisdom, when answers came to me from, outside of my own tiny brain, other things started to happen. And what I saw was that as you find a place of calm, as you move into a kind of understanding the principles of how you experience the life that we lead, how you experience the world, that's when you start to live more consciously, and you wake up and you live in a way that encourages you to see what you're doing and see whether it's nourishing you or whether it's detracting from you. So every time I got into a great place, because a challenge, had come into my life, I found that I was naturally making healthier decisions. I found that I would eat properly to get the energy to kind of deal with what I was dealing with. And it felt instinctually like the right thing to do. So I might lose weight, I'd get more energy, and I'd start to make choices that enhanced my life and helped me cope with what was going on. And after that's happened kind of sequentially a few times, you start to see that the same things that make us kind of sick, that make us sad and depressed, that make us old, they are all one and the same. And all of those things are what's going on up here. We live in this amazing thought-created world. And when you have, big experiences that encourage you to kind of to stop and to take stock and to slow down, and you realize that how you're seeing things, the thoughts that are going through your head are shaping your response, are shaping what's going on out there. You realize that thought is incredibly powerful, and thought is your world. 100 million %, even though that makes no sense at all. So thought's really, really powerful. And mostly we unconsciously go through our lives. We go through our lives asleep, not realizing that. Where actually, if we stand back from it all, we can use the power of thought in our favor, rather than being the victim, being kind of in the power of, the universe impacting you. You start to realize how powerful you are, how you are the universe, and how using the incredible power of thought, you can shape a world that allows you to see the right choices, to be connected to your wisdom, to eat well, to rest, to move, to be creative, to live on purpose. All these amazing things come to you and you take action just because you're in that really amazing place. So, I talk about mind, body and soul, holistic coaching, but it all starts with what's going on in here. And once we clear that space and we find that calm, centered wisdom that comes, that is part of the bigger part of ourselves, that's part of our essence, that's when everything opens up. So, you might have started off thinking, I'm depressed about X, Y, and Z, but actually that leads on to a healthier lifestyle, to better choices, to finding your purpose, to singing your voice. And it all comes together. So I like to work across mind, body, and soul because instinctually it's the only way to go. It's how we work. It's the principles that drive our life.
Nice one. Thank you. We had Trish Grimes who jumped in. She's saying hi. Hello, Trish. Thank you for having us. Thank you for joining us. We've got a certain Johnny Craven, which
Wow. Hi, Johnny.
Yeah, Johnny, mate, you're right. Little Bird tells me you have a framework for a healthy, radiant life lived consciously and on purpose. I wonder if you'd like to talk a little bit about that with us.
I wonder who told you about that. Well, I do have a framework, but it's really following on from the last thing that I shared. So, I am a holistic coach, and it always starts with the mind. So once we kind of get to I have 7 pathways. I'll try and be articulate here. So mind, body, and soul. And that's 3 big elements, but under those bigger elements, I have 7 pathways towards what I describe as supernatural aging. So if you could imagine a photograph of 2 women in front of you, and this sounds really horribly judgmental, but it's just to make a point. But if you imagine one of those women was Pamela Anderson, and let's say the other one was, Elle Macpherson. She's a lady in her 50s who looks incredible. And I think they're both roughly of an age between 50 and 60. But I think you might agree that the way that they've chosen to age It's both very deliberate, but actually very different. So if I was to kind of make a choice between one or the other, and it's not quite as simple as that, but this is to make a point, rather than changing things from the outside in, my model is all about changing from the inside, and that glows, that changes what we see on the outside. You radiate your health and vitality from the inside out. So in that picture of Pamela Anderson versus Elle Macpherson, Elle Macpherson has chosen, no plastic surgery. She lives a conscious life. She meditates. She makes clear choices and lives with intent and purpose. And actually, she has, a wonderful soul. She does a huge amount to help educate the kind of third world countries about healthy living and about how to look after yourself, which I think is a wonderful thing. But they both look beautiful, one in a kind of maybe more artificial way, and the other in a way that's kind of aging gracefully. So both of those women, in some different, from different populations, might be seen as beautiful. And I'm just talking about aging in a way that allows you to, I call it ascending a staircase of aging. So the world we live in right now tends to see aging as a downward decline. We get older, we suffer from chronic diseases, we need support to live a natural life. We can't do things for ourselves, we are dependent. And effectively we don't live a wholehearted life. We're held back by the physical restraints of our body. We're suffering with pain. We suffer indignity. And I don't think we need to age that way. I think that's an old-fashioned view of aging. And we can choose to age by tapping into the only part of ourselves that actually does not age at all. So if you think of our spirit, our soul, our life force, the essential consciousness that was you before you were born into your body, the thing that's been here, for eternity, that is outside of time. And by spending more of your consciousness being aware of that and living from a calm, blissful state, by knowing that you are part of a bigger whole, knowing that you are the whole, knowing that, all those things I described in my near-death experience, that's who we always are. So living in that place, it almost is like it regenerates the physical body. And one of the things that I've found in my, work, I've done a lot of work on neuroscience and neurobiology, so understanding the biological principles which are behind aging. Aging kind of has two paths, one of which is kind of aging that's unchangeable. Our body degrades. Everything that's born goes into a state of entropy where we start to decay. Every life, every living being, every plant, every tree, as soon as it kind of bursts into bud, it's immediately starting to decay. And the human body is in the same vein. We can't stop that. But actually, more than 50% of the aging that we see in the 21st century is aging through damage, aging through what's going on up here, aging by living in a stress-based, self-created world, aging by living from fear. And in that place of fear, we age by damage from making the wrong choices, by eating the wrong foods, by not protecting ourselves from the sun, by taking on board chemicals in the foods that we eat, in the, the cleaning and the household stuff, by having tablets. I'm shocked to find that something like a third of the developed world are on a prescription pill every day of their lives. That's toxins, that's toxic, that's creating and accelerating age before you need to. So the model that I work with is about understanding all of those things that are aging created by damage and taking them away, clearing away the negative thoughts, clearing away the things inside your head that encourage you to live from fear. clearing away all of the things in your body. You know, our bodies are incredible things. If we leave them to their own devices, if we instinctually do what our caveman ancestors have done, we would self-clean, our cells would regenerate as they should do. Unfortunately, the fast-paced world, over-information, overload, toxic air, toxic food, over-processed food, eating dead, over-processed muck has basically fucked us up, excuse my language. So once you figure out all of that, and I work through several paths with the body, so it's about purifying, it's about nourishing, it's about re-educating people. So instinctively, we now know less than your own pet dog. And I love this analogy that, you know, we have our wonderful dogs, and let's say that your dog is about to have puppies. And I know lots of wonderful doggy mummies and daddies out there who go to, you know, the lengths and breadth to read about puppy birth, to make sure they're doing everything for their dog as their dog gives birth. And they'll read several books, they'll get everything sorted, they'll line things up, and they'll go to sleep, and they'll wake up in the morning and the dog's already done it with no input from humankind whatsoever. Animals have not been kind of corrupted, for want of a better word. They're not having these poisonous thoughts that have taken away their amazing instinctual intelligence. We have so much bullshit to kind of clear away that we've lost our instinctual paths. So the pathways that I share are about kind of, you know, as I say, purifying, nourishing, sleeping, moving, and beautifying, all things that instinctually your dog will do better than you do, or your cat, or whatever pet that you might have. And actually, if you've got children and you look at your baby or your toddler, there is so much wisdom in how they behave before they're educated, before they're socialized, before they've learnt these horrendous rules that hold us back and that kind of prevent us from remembering who we really are. And then my final pathway is about energy. It's about energizing. And it's about tapping into that amazing place that I shared with the near-death experience. If you know that energy is always sitting there. Now, if I try and kind of liken it to an experience that a lot of us have gone through, the energy that's sitting there waiting for us to tap into. If you remember the time as, you know, when you're like 12, 13, 14, and you're starting to see the opposite sex, or you're starting to get into your sexuality for the first time, and you fall in love, or you think you do, you have a crush on someone at school, suddenly your mornings, you wake up with this huge kind of vitality. You're desperate to get out of bed. You're desperate to throw on your school uniform. You can't wait. You're not going to have breakfast. You don't even want to wait for the school bus. You run to school because you've got so much energy to see this, you know, this person. And when that person walks in the room, you're like, oh, and, you know, this energy just floods into you. That type of feeling that doesn't come from food, that doesn't come from you exercising, that's the energy that once you remember, once you find that calm space in your head, once you make the right decisions, the right choices for your body, you tap into that powerful essence more and more. And here's an amazing fact. When you fall into that place, that calm place, when you realize and reconnect with that powerful essence, for some people it's like being hypnotized, for some people it's meditating, for some people it's just, you know, calmly walking along, totally absorbed in the zone, in the flow. When you're in that space, your body rejuvenates 1,000-fold more than when you're in your stressed out space. So it's no surprise that, you know, spiritual teachers, you know, gurus, yogis, yoga instructors who are more often in that blissful space, they don't tend to get ill. Their immune system is, you know, supernaturally large. They are rejuvenating themselves at a cellular level. And that's the state that my pathways lead towards, so that you're not fighting an unwinnable battle. You're tapping into an infinite source of energy that rejuvenates the physical body. So it's not just a space of, oh, I feel good, and that's a good thing, and so I'll make wise choices. It actually rejuvenates your cells. It's very, very powerful indeed. Very powerful. And there's all sorts of amazing proof. So one wonderful proof about the power of thought and the power of meditation. There is a global meditation group to which I'm very proud to be a new member of. But this group of people get together and we meditate at an agreed time, people across the world. And we're all focused on world peace. And since this program has been going, some of the city centres, the urban centres where people are doing this meditation together, the crime rate has decreased. People are living longer. Cancers have gone down. People, it's amazing that the number of proofs, I could fill a page, a beautiful glowing golden page of how miraculous it is. And in the work that I do, I want people to see their own miracle, to experience a life lived, radiating that your true essence, and your body will follow.
Awesome. How well you articulate all of that. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm going to go to the comments a minute for a moment, and then I'm going to link back in with some of what you've just been saying. We've got we've got Johnny Creben. He's saying, spend most of my time recently not being aware, sensitive, grumpy, cross. My awareness seems to be a bit crap. I've been like this for bloody years. I struggle to leave myself alone, mentally speaking. Oh dear, that sounds horrible. And Barry says, have to go to work today. Enjoy your day. Thanks. Right. I enjoy listening. If you're still on, thanks for joining us. We've got Johnny also said he's a reoffending thought user and abuser. Oh dear, we've all been there, mates. I feel for you. We need to catch up soon as well, anyway.
Is it worth speaking to that one? Because Johnny's put a couple of comments there, and I think so many people will have fallen into that trap of, just being stuck with their thoughts. And one of the wonderful things that I've learned is that although, intellectually, it's very easy to say that we've created this world and, we live in a thought-created world and 100% of our experience is coming from inside. But even knowing that does not allow people to shift that aside and say, oh, okay, I'm having a crappy day. I feel shitty because I'm having shitty thoughts. Take the shitty glasses off. I'll feel okay. Even if we know this concept intellectually, it doesn't allow us to take the shitty glasses off. And sometimes it encourages them to get a big piece of gaffer tape and stick the shitty glasses to your head because you keep thinking, I know this, so I know I can just let it go and my mind will settle and it'll all be okay. But actually, sometimes when you intellectually know, that thought process on the thought process keeps you ruminating on the bad stuff. It keeps you stuck. So sometimes just knowing isn't enough. And that's why in my program I talk about things that allow you to interrupt the intellectual stage. So I actually do think it's important to have tools, because just knowing that that we live in this world of thought, that we create our own world, it doesn't allow you to take that pause. It doesn't allow you to step aside. It doesn't allow you to get perspective. So I use all sorts of techniques depending on whether someone's visual, whether someone's into touch, whether someone, is evoked into a different space by smell. I love essential oils, and I find that just smelling, an uplifting blend that I've created immediately puts me back into a sunny space as a child, sitting, smelling wildflowers, making daisy chains. in that blissed out kind of toddler state. And it takes me back there. And I find that when I do that, I've done a physical thing which shifts me out of thinking. And when I've done, when I've smelt the smell and I've done the breathing, I can then get perspective, I can get space, I can move on. But there are so many of those little kind of interruptions that give you space that I personally think are necessary, because although it's something that we already know, we were born into that kind of spacious well-being, it's very easy to forget. And having those little snaps to get you back, to wake you up, it's really helpful.
Nice one, Leonie. I know I still use techniques and modalities sometimes, not always and nowhere near as much as I used to, but I still do find good use for them. Lucy has asked, and I was going to ask you this myself, what are the details of this worldwide meditation cool group you've been describing?
I will. I haven't got them immediately to hand, Lucy. It's a really good question, but I will send the link afterwards. Really wonderful group. You can read all about it.
As well. Phyllis Reardon, my friend Phyllis from Newfoundland, Canada, is in the house. Hiya, Phyllis. Thank you for joining us. And Johnny also said, Phyllis. Miss you all. Yeah, Johnny.
Miss you too, Johnny.
Notable by your absence. I should get you on one of these as well. Now I think about it if you're up for it, but that's another story. Talk about putting you in the fire line. I just want to say, Leonie, that you also talk, like live your talk as well, because you cured yourself from leukemia. You were given months to live, understand. You were calling the doctors, you were going only one place, and that wasn't going to be here anymore. But obviously, you're no longer, that's very historical now. So you definitely know what you're talking about when you talk about, because what was stage 4, wasn't it? Or stage?
Yeah.
Yeah. Generally,
that's right.
Stage 4. Yeah. So I don't know. You've got a Facebook group going on as well, and trying to remember the name of it. Stay Young Forever, is it? Stay Young.
That's right. Stay Young Forever is the page, and Forever Young is the group. And again, I can share details for people to join. I was super humbled and very, very, grateful for people joining last time. So there was a big flurry of excitement post the last call, and I know that several of those people have joined the group. So I do hope they're enjoying the posts and the videos that I put up. There's lots of stuff there. I hope you're enjoying it.
Yeah, you've also got website as well, helpmestayyoung.com.
That's right.
Nearly pressed the wrong button. www.helpmestayyoung.com.
Very clever. Technology is very impressive.
Looks cool, doesn't it? Have you got any final thoughts you want to share? It's totally your stage.
I do. There is something, and I think it goes back to remembering who we really are and experiencing what that feels like more often. So there's something that I use myself quite a lot. So if I'm, about to do something which I feel is going to be nerve-wracking, if I get those thoughts that say, oh, people are going to be watching me, or people might be judging what I'm saying, I do a kind of a breathing exercise myself. And it's a really simple breathing exercise, but it's about heart coherence, heart-brain coherence. And I truly believe that everything that we do in our physical bodies creates a vibrational frequency. And the higher the frequency is the frequencies that we experience when we're in a more blissful state. So every emotion that we go through, from the fear-based emotions, anger, anxiety, depression, anything on the negative spectrum, in old language of positive and negative, all the way up to neutral when you're not experiencing any feelings one way or the other. And then the more positive things of, I'm having a pleasant day, this is okay, to I feel really grateful, I'm blissed out, this is just magical, it's miraculous, moving up the ladder, if you like, of emotions. They all have a different vibrational frequency. and a way of creating the right type of vibrations in your body. The vibrations themselves are the vibrations that we give off in a blissful state. But by synchronizing your heartbeat and your brain waves, you actually encourage your biology to go into that blissful state, and your head naturally clears. And it's literally 5 deep breaths. And we can all do this now if you like. So if you're all happy to join in, I'll explain a little bit more up front. As you breathe in, I want you to think of something that you're really grateful for in your life. A person that you love, an experience that you've had, something that gives you huge joy and that's already existing, a wonderful, incredible feeling of gratitude, the joy of living. Imagine that feeling based on something that you already have. And as you breathe in, imagine that blissful gratitude going into your heart. I'm a big believer also in the chakras. That was a whole different thing on that. But your heart chakra is green, the color of life and birth and verdant fertility and growth. It's like an emerald. If you imagine that wonderful thing that you're grateful for, imagining your chest filling up with wonderful green light that's emanating throughout your whole body. As you breathe in on the count of 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Breathe out on 5. 3, 4, 5. In. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Out. 2, 3, 4, 5. In. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4, 5. Just imagine that wonderful green light, that gratitude filling your whole body as you continue to breathe naturally. I hope you can feel a difference from when we started.
Absolutely.
It naturally slows you down. And there should be a warmth and a compassionate, loving feeling that comes to you the more you do that. I hope you enjoyed it.
I did. I certainly feel a lot more calm, relaxed. Yeah, definitely more than a subtle shift, definitely. And that was just after a few rounds of doing that. I can imagine if you kept that up for even 3 to 5 minutes,
Yeah.
make an even bigger difference. Just going to go to the comments. We've got Phyllis. Oops, Lucy saying, lovely breathing meditation. Thank you. Likewise, Lucy, good to have you on the live stream. Phyllis is saying essential oils help raise the vibration as well.
I absolutely do. I love that, Phyllis. I don't know whether you've got any suggestions, but for me, if I'm wanting to go to an uplifted space, anything with some wonderful citrus blends, but I like to mix citrus, which is naturally uplifting, with something that has a grounding bass note. So sandalwood is a personal favorite. Normally it's very masculine. I think I'm very in touch with my masculine side, but the wonderful woody aroma of sandalwood with wild orange is beautiful, and absolutely it raises your vibration.
Nice one. So just to final recap, Leonie's website is www.helpmestayyoung.com. It's got a Facebook group, Stay Young Forever Facebook page. So we'll stick links in the comments section below. And much love to you all for being a part of this. If you got value from it, we invite you to share it out. Share the love.
Thank you. Really enjoyed it today, guys. I I really hope that I've touched you too. I really enjoyed it. Thank you. Thank you for all your comments.
You've given loads of value, Leonie. Thanks very much. You've enjoyed it. Much love to you. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.
Bye, guys.